Millennial friends and neighbors. It is Robert with Block's Sonic Wafers. And I just wanted to jump into the deep waters and throw together a contest entry here for Jason, the old Millennial, whose channel is new to me, and I'm sure my channel would be new to Jason. But welcome aboard, Jason. I think you've got an interesting contest going here. And for myself, I never graduated from high school. And that's a story in and of itself. But I did go to high school for a while. And, I have a hard time picking a particular album from that period because some of the greatest records ever made came out during those years. And I'm talking 69-ish to 75-ish. So, you could stack up a pile of the greatest classic records that were ever released. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to play for you a little story that will tell you kind of sort of a little bit about what high school days were like back then. When I originally started in high school, it was at a time in my neck of the woods where there was a huge division between the long hair types and the sports types, as we called the jocks. They generally didn't intermingle, and there was a slight rivalry between the two. But I saw that melt away, and that melting away kind of had something to do with this little story I'm going to play for you. So let's go ahead and knock that out. And there's a song at the end of this little story that is really not relating to the topic at hand, but for continuity's sake, I left it edited in there. I hope you enjoy both, and I will be back with you in a moment.
That last song was such a touching little number about athleticism and hallucinogenic drugs. You don't really hear enough of that in folk music anymore. I'm just doing what I can. But it also reminded me of another touching story that I would like to pass on to you and dedicate to my brother who's here tonight. My father, back in Beaverton, Oregon, when I was a kid, my dad was really into sports, and he was a big jock, and we tried, and while my brother was very good at sports, I was considerably less good. Now, that doesn't mean I didn't try. I wanted to be involved in my family activities, so I gave it everything I had. And by the time I was a junior in high school at Beaverton High School in Beaverton, Oregon, I was on the varsity football team. Now, I ain't saying I played very much, but I was on the team. Now, if you've never been on any kind of football team in high school, let me just tell you real quickly what that's like so you'll know what I'm talking about. If you're on the football team in high school, that means you and about 50 other guys are going to get together for about 4 months out of the year, every day for about 90 minutes to 2 hours a day. You're going to take off your comfortable outfits, and you're going to put on uncomfortable outfits. And then you're going to go outside, whether it's raining or freezing or really hot or really cold, it doesn't fucking matter. You're going to go outside in those uncomfortable outfits, and you're going to run into and away from each other, all in relationship to the movement of a ball. Now, this whole thing is going to happen while you are consistently being yelled at by adults. Now, sometimes it happens right after school. Sometimes it happens at another school. Sometimes they even have people gather around and keep track of the shit you do while you're doing it. Sometimes it's under the lights. Sometimes it's at another school. Sometimes they get kids from another school to do it with you. But technically, all you're really doing is what I described before. Now, your parents, at least in my case, my parents told me that I was representing the community. And they said that if things went well, we could win district. Now listen, I didn't even know I was from a district, let alone know that it was up for fucking grabs, and that somehow I was responsible for attaining it for everybody, and I had to wear this uncomfortable fucking outfit to do it. Right? So one afternoon I'm at football practice, right? And we got this thing that they make you do where they have this sled with pads on it, and you gotta push this sled. And the coach stands on it and yells at you while you push the sled. This never happens during the game, but they make you practice it anyway. Not only do they make you practice it, you gotta wait in line to push this fucking thing. So here I am, waiting in line to push something. And I notice across the field from this field I'm standing in is a whole different group of kids. And these kids have on all the same stuff they wore to school. And I know that they're smoking cigarettes, which I had heard was bad, but there's also some chicks standing around with these guys. So I tap this older guy in front of me and I say, "Who are those guys over there?" He said, "Those are the burnouts, man." I said, "What's a burnout?" He said, "The burnouts hang out in the smoke pit." I said, "What's a smoke pit?" He said, "That's where the burnouts hang out." And I didn't know any more than when I started. So I asked the coach, I said, "Coach, what's a burnout from the smoke pit, man?" And he said, "Oh, Snyder, I would hate to see you turn into some kind of burnout from the smoke pit." Sorry, coach. He said, "Son, I'm not trying to disparage any of the other kids at this school, but those kids over there, they're just a bunch of dirty sheep standing around in a field doing nothing." I said, "Well, I don't want to be that." So I went about my business. But then, about a week later, I was in the cafeteria sitting there minding my own business, and sits next to me is this kid that I clearly recognized as a burnout from the smoke pit. And I didn't know what to do. Then he started talking to me, and he seemed as nice as any of the other kids I'd ever met. So I didn't know what to do. And then he said to me, "Hey, Snyder, man, have you ever tried psychedelic mushrooms before?" And I said, "No, I never tried nothing like that before." He said, "Would you like to try something like that?" I said, "Sure, I think I might like to try something like that." So he hands me this big handful of psychedelic mushrooms, and I eat them. And about 35 minutes later, I realized that there's no way I'm gonna be able to go to football practice that afternoon. So I decided to go stand in that other field with those other kids. And as I was standing in that field with those other kids, I saw the life that had been planned out for me from a distance for the first time. There they were, man, the football team. And I ain't trying to disparage any of the other kids at the school either. I'm just saying that it could be argued that they look like a bunch of dirty sheep standing around in a field doing nothing too. And just as I was taking this information in, I looked up at the goalpost, and the goalpost turned into candles. And just as I was taking that in, they turned into Roman candles, and they went into the sky. And just as I was taking that in, I looked over at that sled I'd been pushing for a couple months, and I saw my friends lined up to push that sled, only now it wasn't a padded sled. It was Fred G. Sanford from the hit situation television comedy Sanford and Son. And he was holding his chest like it was the big one, and they were pushing him. Who would make that up? Now, let me tell you what happens next. This pad that they're pushing morphs from Fred Sanford into Jesus Christ himself. And I'm not trying to be sacrilegious. In fact, I was put out that they were pushing him. But they were pushing him. And then, just as I was about to get upset, he morphed into this other guy that wasn't Jesus, but did have a big beard and long hair and a robe and sandals, like some kind of guy that might have hung with Jesus in the day. And I'm staring at him, and these football players are pushing him, and as I'm staring at him, he looks over and makes eye contact with me. And then he yells across the field, "Hey man, do you have 2 10s for a quarter? Or 2 5s for a nickel?" Then he said, "Can you get to Arca Butler from here?" And I knew then in that moment, friends and neighbors and brothers and sisters, that I was never going to go back to football practice again for as long as I was going to be alive. And while, ironically, to this day, I still follow Coach Boyer and the Beaverton Beavers, because A, I think that this could be the year we win district. And B, we got the coolest goalposts in the whole fucking state. And that, brothers and sisters, is the touching story of how psychedelic drugs turned me from the scoreboard watching jock that my dad was hoping for into the peace-loving, pot-smoking, porn-watching, lazy-ass hippie that stands before you this afternoon at Bonnaroo. Conservative Christian, right-wing Republican, straight white American male. Gay bashing, black fearing, war fighting, tree killing, regional leaders of sale. Shirt tucking, frat housing, cake tapping, backslapping, hater of hippies like me. Tree hugging, peace loving, pot smoking, porn watching, lazy ass hippies like me. Tree hugging, peace loving, pro-choice and gay wedding, widespread panic digging hippies like me. Skin color blinded, conspiracy minded, protesters of corporate greed. We who have nothing and most likely will till we all end up locked up in jail. Like conservative Christian, right-wing Republican, straight white American man. Diamonds and dogs, boys and girls, we're living together in two separate worlds. We're following leaders up mountains of shame, looking for someone to blame. I know who I like to blame. Conservative Christian, right-wing Republican, straight white American man. Gay bashing, black fearing, war fighting, tree killing, regional leaders of sale. Quite diligently working so hard to keep the free reins of this democracy. From tree hugging, peace loving, pot smoking, porn watching, lazy ass hippies like me. Tree hugging, peace loving, pot smoking, porn watching, lazy ass hippies like me. Tree hugging, peace loving, pot smoking, porn watching, lazy ass hippies like me. Tree hugging, peace loving, barefoot and folks singing, lazy ass hippies like me. Y'all, thank you for being so nice tonight. God love you now. Have a good time.
That was Todd Snyder from East Nashville, Tennessee. one of my favorite singer-songwriters, great storyteller. And so what I've decided to do musically, rather than try to pick from Jethro Tull's Thick as a Brick to Zeppelin 4 and all of that, the stuff that came out in that period, there was a band that kind of became hugely popular amongst my high school crowd. Uh, you know, starting around 1969, 70, 72, a thing called country rock started seeping into the consciousness with Poco and the Flying Burrito Brothers and bands of that nature. And it may be a regional thing, but one band that became really big to my high school crowd, Goose Creek Symphony. This is their first album, called Established 1970. They were extremely popular with the crowd I went to school with, with songs like Welcome to Goose Creek, A Satisfied Mind, talk about Goose Creek and other important places. Symphony music, Charlie's Tune, Beautiful Bertha, I'll Fly Away, and yes, it's the old church classic done Goose Creek style. They call themselves a symphony for a reason. In their heyday, they were 11 or 12 pieces. They had a horn section with a trombone. They had two fiddlers, electric guitar, bass, drums, acoustic guitar. And they would take a song and stretch it. But we loved them. They did songs like, on their second album, The Corn Won't Grow, So Rock and Roll. Words of Earnest, which was their third album. No, that was their second album. Right there. Saturday Night at the Grange. Goose Getting Down. Guitars picking and the fiddles playing. Excuse me. And they had I don't know if it was a regional hit or a national hit with their version of Mercedes-Benz by Janis Joplin. After about 4 albums in their career, the leader of the band, Charlie Gerhardt, I think his wife kind of gave him an ultimatum, and he hung it up and made a promise to his wife that he would see the kids grown and out of the house before he got back into music and touring. And meanwhile, during that 20-year hiatus, they lost the rights to their material. And around 1995, they had put a band back together. Paul Spradlin, the lead guitar player, was back in the band. Those were the two stalwarts from the early days. And they got to working at raising the money to get their catalog back. And in 95, they did a show in Chattanooga, Tennessee, which produced this double LP limited edition, The Goose is Loose. Mine is number 1216 of 5,000. They eventually pared this down to a single disc version, which is available today. but I'm not sure if you can get your hands on this 2-disc version. And when they made their comeback, they started touring hot and heavy. I saw them a bunch of times early on and later. And they created their own festival called the Goose by the Lake. Recorded a bunch of those shows and issued them on CD. Their 4th LP, and I think this is the last one they did before they hung it up for a while. This is Do Your Thing, But Don't Touch Mine. And it's on the Columbia label. I am now going to play for you a tune by Goose Creek Symphony called Talk About Goose Creek and Other Places. See you on the other side.
There's a place on this earth my people call home. There's hills and hollers everywhere and lots of room to roam. We're noted for our hard times and God's greatest creation. We're the people of the Hillbilly Nation. All of the boys was a-peeping through the crack of John Lee Allen's old run-down shack. Kissed his girl and he made her cry. She give him a piece of her cherry pie. If you'll go with me to the holler, I will give you $50. If you'll show me a real good time, I will give you $half. Swing, boys. War, sin, killing and robbing. They say that the world is a one big problem. I've got one and I'll tell you now. I can't find my Guernsey cow. And I didn't write no constitution, but I've got one good solution. Drink a little wine, smoke a lot of booze, sit on the back porch and pick a little blues. like picking and singing. We don't need a whole lot of help. We can freak out by ourselves. Freak out, boys. Kick all night, sleep all day. Friends at your beats are making hay. Well, this little tune may sound a little strange, but it's got more soul than home on the range. Swing, boys. Well, this little tune may sound a little strange, but it's got more soul than home on the range. It does. Get down.
Everybody doing all right tonight? Before we go tonight, how about a hand for the boys in the symphony? I do want to thank them very much for what they've contributed in helping us put this together. It's no easy task.
Twerk nothing.
Yeah, sure.
Well, there's nothing wrong with me. Wrong with me. Wrong with me.
Actually, none of them have a wife or any children or anything anymore. They left home to do this one. Anyhow, before we go here, Paul's got this little old thing he always pulls out of his pants.
You know, every time you say that, it sounds funny.
It is funny.
Got it.
The boy with a juice heart.
I'm gonna write a rap song with Juice Harp.
Before we go here, we're going to get everybody to join in with us on another song.
Yeah.
That old Southern national anthem. Y'all know it, I know. And it goes like this. You get a line and I'll get a pole, honey. You get a line and I'll get a pole, babe. You get a line and I'll get a pole. We go down to the crawdad hole, honey, baby mine. Little fiddle. Peace be with you, bros. The boys in the band.
Okay, and for a brief story from my high school days, there was one year in particular, and the only year we had a particular principal who was extremely liberal and gave us permission to paint a wall on the backside of the school, which at that time was our smoking area. Yes, kids, we smoked at school back in those days. And so here is a photograph that was put in the newspaper of the finished product. I was not there when the newspaper came by and took the photo. I had already left, but we spent a weekend doing this painting of the Keep On Trucking wall from R. Crumb, and we did it on a Saturday and a Sunday. We ordered pizza, made a party out of it and had a good time. And that wall was there for many, many years. I'm afraid that it is gone now. It has been painted over. I'm not even sure if the wall's still there because they did a renovation of the school and added a bunch of stuff onto it. But that's a memory. It's a really good one. My girlfriend at the time is in this photo, and it's something I'll always cherish. It was a great time. So cherish your school days. You may hate them like I did, but there's some good memories to look back on. It's a good contest. Everybody go to Jason the Old Millennial's channel and sub him up. I did, and I will see you on the next video. Have a good one.